Welcome to the Time to Practice podcast. This is a space where we talk about music practice, the ups and downs that young musicians go through related to practice and learning music, and how we as parents, caregivers, and music educators can support the young musicians in our lives, support ourselves, and support each other. My name is Christine Goodner. I'm a music educator, author, and podcaster who has made it my mission to talk about music practice and to support educators and families looking to make home practice more effective and to reduce conflict and frustration in the practice room. I'm glad you're here. If you're enjoying these episodes or are looking for practice tips and resources throughout the month, I would love to invite you to join my newsletter. I just send this out once monthly. It's the way I balance this work with my teaching schedule. And each newsletter you receive will be filled with updates on podcast episodes, any upcoming events that might be happening, and also some tips and resources that I have encountered in the last month that are inspiring me or that I want to share that I think will inspire you. So I'd love you to join. You can find the sign up for that at suzukitriangle.com/newsletter. I promise not to send you any spam and keep these emails full of helpful tips and information. On to episode 100. Today is a bit of a celebration for reaching this milestone of 100 podcast episodes. And stats I read recently said somewhere between 4 and 6% of all podcasts that are started make it to episode 100. So I am proud of us reaching this milestone together. And a big part of why I still do this, because podcasts are lots of time and effort and work, is because of all of you who listen, who reach out, who are amazing guests who have come on the show and shared your experience and your words of wisdom. I know I get a lot personally out of doing this each week. I'm a better teacher because I'm always thinking about new ideas and how to articulate the ideas I already have. I'm better able to share ideas and problem solve with people when I give talks and workshops because of all the conversations we have here together. And I feel more connected with the bigger music community because of each one of you who listens. Because of each one of you who listens. Anytime I've wondered if I should keep doing this, I feel like someone reaches out and says how an episode has helped them or helped their students, and it fuels me to keep going. So thank you for listening, for sharing, for reviewing, for letting me know when something's helped you, and for being here each week. I thought today, to celebrate this milestone, I would share 10 lessons from the Time to Practice podcast. There's probably many more we could come up with, but things that I think we could all take away from all the conversations that have been had here. The first is just the power of how showing up daily and doing a little bit at a time and practicing really adds up over time. A little history. This is not my first podcast. I hosted a podcast in 2018 and 2019 with violinist Abigail Peterson. And we produced and hosted that podcast, which was so much fun and is such a learning curve. You can still find it out there on a lot of podcast platforms. And I think that's really where I learned how to go from nothing to getting started and how intimidating that can be. I think there's a lot of lessons there about how that connects when we are starting a new instrument or helping our child start a new instrument. I remember being so intimidated just looking at the microphone plugged into my computer that my mind would go blank every time I went to hit record and try to practice. In all honesty, I ended up picking up the book Goodnight Moon and reading it into the microphone so I could learn how to edit and produce the audio. And it gave me somewhere to start at least. I can look back now and see how far I've come and how much I've learned and how much I'm not intimidated by the process in the same way anymore. And I think one thing I've taken away, and I hope you all take away from this podcast, is just remembering how showing up every day and doing a little bit can add up over time and really give us dramatic results a few years in the future. All right, number 2. Another lesson that I think we can all learn from all the guests who've come on and shared their experience in music is just how different everyone's journey is learning music as they grow up. And these are professional musicians that are sharing with us. It's easy to compare our child's musical development to others around us. And I would say I've learned there's no one path to sticking with music and keeping it in our lives into adulthood. That could be as a professional musician, or it could be someone in a different profession who still plays and who still enjoys or supports the arts. Number three is very related, and it's that it's perfectly normal for different children and different, even professional musicians, to have different feelings, approaches, or thoughts about music practice. Your child may love to practice and love the problem solving aspect of practice and figuring things out. And many children also love playing their instrument, going to their lessons, performing, but always see practice as a chore. I don't think there's one right way that someone is supposed to, quote, feel about practice, especially after so many interviews with so many professional musicians. Sometimes, even into adulthood, professional musicians either love to practice and the process itself, or they're willing to do the practice because they want the results from practice and to get to do all the things that the practice allows them to do. After a number of interviews on this podcast, it gave me the idea of the analogy that practice is to music like running is to sports. Some people, their whole sport is running because they love it so much. They run cross country or marathons or other distance events, and they love the feeling and the process of running itself. And then others really want the results from the running, but find the actual running to keep in shape for their sport to be a total chore, which I heard in a interview with a world-class soccer player once who said they wanted to be top of their game, but they really hated the running that went along with that to get them there. But of course, they were willing to put in that work because they wanted the results. I think that can teach us a big lesson about how our child is feeling about music practice. It's okay if the practice feels like a chore. Of course, we want to help them with new ideas and strategies to make it more pleasant or more tolerable. But there's nothing, quote, wrong if your child loves to play their instrument or loves to perform or loves to go to their lesson in group classes, but finds the practice plain old hard work. Different students and different personalities are going to approach this and think about this in different ways. And it absolutely can and will change over time with their musical and brain development as well. Number four is a common theme that comes up in conversations with musicians who have been on this podcast and with my own experience that I like to share. And that is the power of having a social outlet for music. I think this is why a lot of us get into music as professionals because we love that feeling of making music with others. It can be the thing that hooks us in as we get into our teen years and participate in more ensembles and experiences with other musicians in our lives. And if I could give any advice to parents listening, especially as your children go through the grade school years and start to enter their teen years, is to find that social outlet for your student to be involved with other students and their music, whether that's a practice buddy, whether that is being in an ensemble, attending a summer camp, going to any group classes or other ensemble experiences that your teacher offers. All of these things are not only fun, but they are the thing that often motivates people to keep playing or get their instrument out so they know their music when they show up to make music with their peers. All right, lesson number five, which is related to the previous one. And that is that we've had a number of guests on this podcast who started music in their school music program. These programs often have a peer or social connection component built in. And I think it's part of what gets students excited to make music from the start when that is where they begin their music journey. So, some of our guests, Claire Allen, Andrew Miller, Dr. Quentin Morris, and many more, started in programs in their schools that had built in peer and social components from the start. Music education in the schools is so important because so many musicians I know and you know and that we've heard from would not have had the opportunity to start music and be introduced to music without these school programs and fantastic teachers in the schools. Advocate for your local school music programs, support them. It's so, so important. Lesson number six is for all the parents and caregivers and family members who are supporting their young musician with their practice. Your role is more important than you know. From my own experience, I realize thank yous do not go out enough to all of the family members who support a young child's music journey. But hopefully, through the stories you hear on this podcast and through our discussions that we have here, you can feel the importance of what you do and the commitment you're making. In a research project I did a few years ago, somebody submitted an answer to one of my questions that said, quote, Suzuki parenting was the hardest but most rewarding thing I've ever done. We don't have to be a Suzuki parent necessarily. I think any kind of music parent helping their child at home in practice is putting in a lot of work. And hopefully you too can feel like this might be hard, but it's so worth it. Lesson number 7 for all of us who have been listening to these episodes is getting started can be the hardest part of practice, or really any deeply focused activity we may undertake. Many of our guests, including our most recent guest, bassist Sherry Luchetti, have shared tips about how to get started and how to overcome that obstacle of just getting the instrument out of the case. If it's challenging for you or for your child to get started in the music practice, hopefully you can keep in mind that you are not alone and this is not a unique problem that only you are experiencing. Task initiation is an executive functioning skill, and also it's simply human to prefer to do something easier and something that takes less effort. And there can be some internal pushback against switching to a more focused task. It's reassuring, to me at least, to see and hear just how common this is. And I hope you feel that way too. Tip number 8 is one that comes up as a theme often in conversations we have here, and that is that even a small practice is better than none at all. Even 5 minutes is better than skipping a day completely. Frequent guest Barbie Wong and I talk about this a lot in some of our episodes we've recorded together. Those little short practices do add up, especially if we prioritize what we practice when we only have a few minutes. Plus, we practice the routine of just getting to the instrument every day and doing something, and that's huge as well. All right, we're down to our last 2 tips. So, lesson 9 that I take away from all of our conversations here is that since I was a young music student, since we were all children ourselves, so much more is understood about brain development and child development and emotional regulation and executive function skills. So much is developing in our children and our students, so much more than just their music skills, even though those are hugely important. When we start to understand that and understand what might be making learning challenging for our particular child or student, and how that might be just a part of that student's development as a human in the world, it can really help put things in perspective and help us find strategies that help. And the final tip I'll share today, although there could be many more if we wanted to come up with them, is the power of knowing we're not alone and feeling like we're part of a community. That feeling of, oh, good, it's not just me or not just us is so important. Nothing is wrong with you if your child has trouble getting started with practice, or if your teenager still needs reminders to get going. Nothing is wrong with you if you wish it were easier as a music teacher to support the families you work with, or if you feel like you have so much to offer and also see a lot of the students you work with having challenges to make home practice happen as carefully as you'd like or as regularly as you would like. We are all human. Life is not easy sometimes. Music development, child development, executive function development, emotional regulation skill development, all of these are processes. They are complicated, and it's sometimes confusing to figure out what is the best support that we need to offer. There are strategies we can adopt and skills we can build, and there are also many things outside of our own control. As we close up this episode, I'll share the Dr. Becky Kennedy quote with you that I really love so much. This feels hard because it is hard, not because you're doing something wrong. If you're facing challenges in your teaching and supporting your students, or in parenting and supporting your child in practice, that's because this is complicated and not always easy. And also, I'll echo that quote I read before and say, it is so worth it. My hope for you, for all of us, is that we can learn together how to accept and make peace with that, and also make the parts that feel hard a little easier or a little more neutral. And then we can also find the things that feel joyful and exciting and beautiful in the world through music that we make or teach or that our child is learning to make. Music is such a gift. Who we become when we learn and practice music every day and week and year and are surrounded by people doing the same is life-changing. It adds so much richness to our lives and to that of our children and students. Thanks for being on this journey with me on this podcast and being part of the Time to Practice community. Here's to the next 100 episodes. I wouldn't be able to do it without all of you. Take good care.